Okay, for tonight's meeting, the main thing that I want to go over is kind of what our timeline looks like for the next 6 weeks. I believe I mentioned at last week's meeting that we were considering the option of returning to a very limited in house worship experience the weekend of May 31st. That was prior to Madison County's decision, the health department taking the vote, or the health board, I should say, taking the vote that they took last week. That's also prior to the response from the cities of Granite City and Collinsville, and more specifically, the village of Maryville. If you've not been up on all the drama, which I'm sure you all are, but let me give you just a 30-second recap on that. Last week, the Madison County Board of Health decided to, they voted 26-2 to decide to reopen the county and proposed a new phase timeline that was a little more aggressive. That's probably an understatement. That was a lot more aggressive than Governor Pritzker's timeline. As you know, Wednesday, then the cities of Collinsville, Granite City, and the village of Maryville decided that they were going to go against the county's vote and to stick with the timeline given by Governor Pritzker. And so, because of that, we have adjusted to honor the wishes and honor the leadership of our city, and we're now going to push our reopening to the 1st of July. Now, exactly what that's going to look like, we really don't know. We know that phase 3 of Governor Pritzker's plan includes groups of 50 or less, so no more than 50 can congregate together, and that's what we would look at doing, is creating worship experiences for 50 people or less. At a church our size, that obviously poses a lot of challenges, and we've got a lot of different models that we're looking at right now. Some of them would include um, giving folks the option to worship in-house 1 week in a month, or possibly 2 weekends a month, and then they would worship at home the other weekends to give other individuals the opportunity to worship in-house. That seems to be probably one of the more realistic options that we have right now. But all that to say, we've got a wide kind of a myriad of options that we're looking at. Um, this would include some very significant measures whenever we go back to a live service. So, of course, we would be encouraging social distancing. I don't say enforcing, because we're not gonna like ticket you if you make you pay an indulgence if you don't social distance appropriately. But hey, might be fun. Um, we're not going to do that, but we're going to be encouraging social distancing and setting up our spaces so that that is possible. The other thing that we're going to be doing is asking people to wear masks whenever they come in for worship, and making masks available for those. Again, this is not going to be something that we enforce militantly, just something that we'll encourage. If you don't want to wear a mask or whatever, we're not going to kick you out and throw you to the curb. But something we'll be encouraging. The other thing that this would include is, on the days that we would do, if we do multiple services back to back, this would include a very extensive cleaning of our facilities between services. So all the pews, the floors, every touch surface would be wiped down. So we would go pretty in depth into how the facilities are cleaned. Just so you know, from a cleanliness standpoint, I think I've mentioned this before too on a couple of months ago on earlier calls, but our facility has gone through much of it. I would say about 90% of it has gone through what's called a terminal cleaning, which is similar to how you would clean an operating theater after surgery. A good probably at the outset, a good 75 to 80% of the facility was cleaned and then shut down, and it's been shut down for a couple of months. Since then, we've started doing some flooring projects, and uh, waxing the floors, getting ready for the next school year, installing some new floors in different locations. However, our cleaning company still continues to clean the facility as if it were an operating theater at this point. So, from that standpoint, you can come back with confidence knowing that appropriate measures have been taken to ensure that everything is disinfected, and with an extra emphasis on high touch surfaces as well. Um, so that's the plan. So what is the rest of May and June going to look like then? Well, here's what here's what we have, and as you know, things change day to day, week to week. Uh, but for this week, we will once again be shooting the worship, or I should say the music portion and the preaching portion of the worship service live in the chapel. This team has already been put together and we've communicated with, and so we'll be shooting the music portion this Wednesday evening. The sermon was actually shot last week, so that's already good to go. Next week, for the weekend of the 31st, we'll be shooting that next Wednesday. And those of you who are involved in that, I've sent out service requests to you there. Again, very limited team. We're um, keeping everything to groups of less than 10, and we're really trying to stick under 8 as well, just as few people as possible. So that service will be shot in-house. Then for the month of June, we will continue with that schedule. We're going to shoot all of our services live in the chapel with as small of a team as possible. Um, I'll also say we are going to continue worship nights through the month of June as well. So the next 2 weeks, this coming Thursday, the 21st, and then next Thursday, the 28th, we will still be in our regular virtual band setup. However, at the end of May, we're going to be retiring that setup and instead adopting our new modified weekend setup of recording live in the house. And we're going to kind of batch those. We're going to record a couple of them at a time just to limit exposure and, contact as much as possible. So that pretty well brings us up to speed. I wish I had more details as far as what July was going to look like. We have to be contingent with everything, because really phase 3 of Governor Pritzker's plan is contingent upon several markers being met. Some of those include, and I don't have the plan right in front of me, so I can't. I'm not going to recall perfectly off the top of my head what that looks like, but some of those do include the availability of widespread testing. I, as of yet, we are still not at a point where um, the availability and the reliability of testing is at a mass scale. And so until that point comes, I think we're going to be in this phase for a little bit. But we'll continue to pray for the next 6 weeks that would happen, and that those tests would become available. Of course, the other big thing to get all the way through phase 5 of his plan includes the development, the clinical testing, and the widespread dissemination of a vaccine. I think we're all aware of what that timeline looks like as well. So that might we will continue to do things in a limited basis uh, for the foreseeable future. Um, I hope you're not discouraged by any of this. Let me just say that. I hope you're not discouraged by any of this. I'm incredibly encouraged because we've been given an opportunity to figure out how to serve people differently. And necessity is the mother of uh, invention, and we're going to develop ways of reaching people and ministering to people that will change the way we do ministry for the next couple of decades. I think that's already happened. And um, I think that this is a gift from the Lord, even in the midst of all of the frustration of not being able to serve together, meet together, and have close community and tight connection. There is there is good happening and the gospel continues to go forward. And even more so, I think it's even more amplified during this time, the forward movement of the gospel. And so I hope you all are encouraged by that. And we can stare at the situation, um we can assess it realistically, and we can live in reality, and we can also live in the hope that is spoken into that reality. So um do you guys have any questions or thoughts that you want to add to that?
Yeah, Matt.
Yes, sir.
When we do get to come back in July, I'm assuming you'd have a director in a booth and one camera person.
That's sort of the model that we would be looking at. Yeah.
So would they count towards the 50 or?
Yeah. That's a good
Yeah.
question, Randy, because our building is a tricky situation. It's right now it's about 5 buildings or 10 buildings or however you
Yeah.
want to look at it. It is a very big facility, and that I, that I really don't know. I do know that uh, we'll have to, whenever we do come back, the booth, yeah, is going to be a hotbed um, for the virus. To be quite honest, and so we're going to have to limit activity in the booth to just the
Right.
director and the projectionist. No
Right.
family members, unfortunately. I hate that, and I really wish we didn't have to do that, but we're going to have to limit it to no family members or additional personnel in the booth.
Right.
Um, just 2 individuals in and out. The other thing that we're going to do is I'm not going to open up the backstage area for the foreseeable future. Once we come back, we're going to have to figure out a different plan as far as storing equipment and sitting. But I just fear that would be a bit of a hotbed as well with the furniture and with the closeness. But we'll figure out a different way to connect. The
Yeah.
idea is not just
Yeah.
to say no, we're not going to do that. It's how can we replicate this in another way. But
Right.
great question, Randy. Appreciate that. Once we're able to come back live, I really want to figure out a way to get as many people who want to participate in the horn section back back and participating. I don't think we'll be able to do the full horn section once we come back, but I would love to get on some type of schedule that would include everybody maybe twice a month or every 3 weeks or something like that. Just I want to get you guys plugged back in, and yeah, I miss you guys. It was really fun this week just to on Wednesday morning we shot the service for May 17th, this past Sunday, and it was very cathartic just to sit in a room with other people that you're not related to. I really enjoyed that a lot, even though it was just Eli Mincer. I mean, just kidding. Any other questions?
So Matt, I have one.
Yes, sir.
There's probably no answer to it just yet, but I'll go
Yep.
ahead and give it a shot.
Yeah.
The way I understand it, Pritzker's 5-phase plan, I think the 5th and final phase would be the phase where a church of our size could return to services as normal.
Yeah.
But they're estimating that might take 1 to 2 more years.
Yeah.
So, and now that's just an estimate. Who knows what might happen between now and then?
Sure.
But if we were to return to just doing 50 people per Sunday in July, would we just continue doing that until the vaccine is created, or would there be like we'll put more and more, maybe each month, maybe 1 month we allow 75? How would that work?
That's a really good question, Matt. With Pritzker's plan, does anyone remember stage 4? Once we get to stage 4, what the group size is in that phase?
Maybe
I
it was
don't
a
remember
250?
either.
Looking it up now.
Okay, I want to say none of them are over 100 people. I think phase 4 might be 100. Phase 4 might still be 50. I can't remember. It's been over a week since I read it, but Uh, Matt, the point that I was making earlier about the real estate we sit on is technically several buildings in one. One of the one of the ideas that we're kicking around is that we would create kind of section zones within our building that you could go to you could go to a specific zone for our service, and of course it would be simulcasted in all of the different zones. um, Essentially you would enter and leave that zone, and then you wouldn't be able to cross over to any of the other zones once you're within the building. So for example, to make this a little less esoteric here, the let's say if you're in the worship center, you would come in the main lobby, you would worship in the worship center, you would use the restrooms, that are in the main lobby, and then you would exit out of the main lobby. If you were in the chapel, you would come in the side entrance door next to the chapel. You would use those restrooms down there. You would, worship in that space, exit through the side exit door. If you're up in the student area, so on and so forth. You get the picture that I'm painting here. That's kind of a model that we're considering that might help us increase the number of people that we could get on campus. Now, that would have to be really well regulated, um, because if if we if we get into zone crossing, that's when we really get into issues of the social distancing and the numbers. And here's the thing: we want to be supportive members of our community. We have a great relationship with the Maryville Police and the Maryville Fire and EMT, and um, we don't want to make their jobs more difficult. They already get enough calls about some of the churches that do drive-in churches. They've gotten lots of calls about that, and they've even gotten lots of calls on us because we've had construction sites on, or we've had a construction crew on site this entire time, and so that has been way more than 10 people in one location. I mean, some days they have 30, 40, 50 cars in the parking lot. So we're not exempt from that at all, but we're trying to be good neighbors and trying to make their job as easy as possible while still fulfilling Jesus guidelines in scripture that we meet together on a regular basis.
Yeah. Yeah, that zone idea is kind of what I was thinking. I was just thinking about it yesterday afternoon after the service.
Yeah,
And I thought we have so many different classrooms. Each of them have a TV. I probably
absolutely.
couldn't use every single one, but I know we could spread people out and put maybe 20 people per room with masks on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great point, and um, fortunately, we are unbelievably blessed to have the facility that we have. I mean, we just could not be better equipped to go into a situation like this. So that's good.
According to what I just read, phase 3 is only 10 members at a location. Phase 4 goes to 50,
Okay,
and then post pandemic is stage 5.
got it. Okay, very good. So yeah, we'll keep you updated on what happens there, but I just wanted to give you some insight into what we're planning, so um you're not very surprised. I should say you're not very surprised. I'm constantly surprised. It's fun. Every week you wake up and you're like, wow, I didn't think that could ever happen. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate you guys. Love you guys, and just so grateful to be able to serve with you during this time. And if you have additional thoughts, if you have questions, if anything, uh my email inbox is always open. My phone is always open too if you need.
I got one.
Yeah,
Just to make sure I understood, we're still going to record in the chapel the services through the end of June.
through the end of June. That's correct. Yep.
Same format we're doing.
Same format. Yeah. hmm I'm
Thank you.
gonna switch up. We've been running lyrics on the little TV in the middle. That's like the largest TV we have that's not mounted to a wall somewhere. And it's still pretty small. So we're going to switch up this week the way that we're doing lyrics, just to make them a little easier to read and to give us a little more real estate to be able to spread out into as we're recording the services. But other than that, it's going to look pretty similar to what it's looked.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Anybody else?
Hey, Matt, I was curious. A few weeks
Yes, sir.
ago in the service, you had a map of Israel, and there was like a green dot indicating where the cities were. How'd you
Yeah.
do that?
That was in ProPresenter.
Okay.
And you'll have
Oh,
to ask
okay.
you'll have to ask Alan specifically, because I've never actually done that in ProPresenter, but
Huh.
I know he set up the tech with that.
Okay. Just curious.
Mm-hmm. Good question. And for you ProPresenter nerds out there, you've probably seen that ProPresenter 7 is out, and we're actually looking at purchasing that this week, which it is. We won't implement it until we're back, in a full-time capacity, but it's something we're going to start playing around with that gives us some incredible new options as far as broadcast is concerned. So pretty excited about that. But that probably interests two of you, so I won't. I won't
What
take your
about the
time with
amateur presenters?
Yes, Dennis. All right. Well, hey, you guys have a good night. I'll talk to you, same time, same place next week, and then we'll just be in touch.
All right. Good night.
All right.
Yes.